Chosen one, this message is not reaching you by accident. If you are listening right now, it is because something in your spirit has been searching for understanding, for confirmation, for peace about the waiting you have endured. You have asked God questions in silence. You have wondered why love seemed to come easily to others while your own heart walked through seasons of delay, disappointment, and endings you never expected. There were moments when you felt forgotten, as if everyone else was moving forward while you remained standing still. But what you thought was rejection was never punishment, it was preparation. God does not rush what is meant to be sacred. While you were asking why things were not working, heaven was working quietly behind the scenes. The relationships that did not last, the connections that felt almost right but never fully aligned, and even the loneliness you carried were shaping you into someone capable of receiving a deeper kind of love. A love that does not confuse you, drain you, or make you question your worth. God was protecting your heart from connections that were not built to last. Even when it hurt to let them go. You may not have realized it at the time, but every delay carried a purpose. God was healing parts of you that needed restoration. He was teaching you discernment, teaching you patience, teaching you how to recognize peace instead of chaos. And while this was happening in your life, somewhere else, another person was also being prepared. They were learning their own lessons, facing their own battles, growing in ways neither of you could see. Two journeys, separate but guided by the same divine timing. This is why your story has felt different. You may have felt misunderstood by others who could not see why you chose growth over temporary comfort. You may have watched people settle for connections that looked happy on the surface, but lacked depth and spiritual alignment. Deep inside, you knew you were waiting for something real, something that felt safe and honest. And sometimes that waiting made you feel isolated, as if you were being left behind. But in truth, you were being set apart. February 14 carries meaning for many people. The world celebrates love loudly on this day, filled with gestures, expectations, and temporary emotions. But for the chosen one, this season represents something deeper. While others celebrate what is visible, God often reveals what has been prepared in silence. Covenant love is not built in public. It is formed quietly, patiently, away from distraction. It grows through prayer, through healing, through moments when you thought nothing was happening at all. You may have felt recently that something is changing within you, a subtle shift, a sense of calm replacing the urgency you once felt. The need to chase has begun to fade, replaced by a quiet trust that what belongs to you will arrive without force. This is not coincidence. When God prepares to release something meaningful into your life, He first changes your spirit so you are ready to receive it. The restlessness begins to lift. The fear of being alone softens. You start to feel peace before the blessing even appears. Think about how much you have grown. The version of you from years ago would not have recognized the love God is preparing now. You had to learn your value. You had to learn that love should not feel like struggle or uncertainty. And even though the waiting felt long, it ensured that when the right connection appears, you will recognize it not through intensity, but through peace. There is a reason this message feels personal to you. Something has already begun moving spiritually. Doors that once felt closed no longer carry the same weight. Old emotional attachments are losing their hold. You are stepping into a season where love is no longer a lesson but a gift. And what God prepares does not arrive late, it arrives exactly when both hearts are ready. So if you have been feeling tired of waiting, understand this: your story was never delayed, only protected. God was not keeping love from you. He was keeping the wrong love away while preparing something aligned with your purpose. The loneliness you felt was not emptiness. It was space being created for something genuine to enter your life. And now, as this season approaches, there is a quiet anticipation in the air. Not the anxious kind, but the peaceful knowing that something is aligning beyond what you can see. The waiting is beginning to make sense. The lessons are beginning to connect. And soon you will understand why God asked you to be patient, because what He prepares in secret is always worth the wait. Chosen one, when God brings two people together, it rarely looks the way the world expects. It does not begin with confusion, emotional chaos, or the fear of losing the other person. Divine connections carry a different atmosphere. They arrive quietly, almost unexpectedly, and instead of making your heart restless, they bring a sense of calm you cannot easily explain. You may not even recognize it at first because you have grown used to relationships that required effort just to feel secure. But what God prepares does not require chasing. It reveals itself through peace. In ordinary relationships, there is often uncertainty. You question where you stand, you overthink words and actions, and you feel the need to prove your worth. But when God aligns two paths, something shifts. The connection feels natural, as if conversations flow without force and silence feels comfortable instead of awkward. There is recognition, not because you have known this person before, but because your spirit feels safe in their presence. You are not trying to become someone else to be accepted. Both of you can simply be who you are. This is because long before you ever meet, God begins preparing both hearts separately. While you were healing from past wounds, learning to let go of what hurt you, the other person was going through their own process of growth. They were facing lessons that taught them patience, humility, and emotional maturity. Neither of you knew the other existed in this way, yet your journeys were moving in the same direction. What felt like delays were actually adjustments, ensuring that when the meeting happened, both of you would be ready. There were moments when you almost settled for less, moments when loneliness tempted you to accept connections that did not feel right. But something within you held back. That hesitation was not fear, it was guidance. God was protecting the timing. Because a connection built too early, before healing is complete, often turns into another lesson instead of a blessing. Divine alignment requires preparation on both sides, even when it feels slow from your perspective. As February 14 approaches, many people focus on outward expressions of love. But for you, this moment carries a deeper meaning. It is not about coincidence or random encounters. It is about alignment. God allows paths to cross when the season is right, when both individuals have grown enough to recognize the value of what is being placed before them. The meeting may feel sudden, almost unexpected, but in truth it has been planned long before either of you realized it. You may notice that this connection feels different from the beginning. There is no overwhelming pressure to impress or to rush. Instead, there is a steady sense of understanding. Communication feels honest. Presence feels peaceful. The anxiety you once associated with love begins to disappear, replaced by clarity. This is one of the clearest signs of a God-prepared connection. It brings emotional safety rather than emotional confusion. What makes this moment powerful is that neither of you fully understands how many unseen moments led here. The prayers spoken in private, the nights of doubt, the decisions to walk away from what was not meant for you. All of it was shaping this alignment. God was not only preparing the connection, but preparing you to recognize it. Because when divine love appears, it does not need to announce itself loudly. Your spirit knows before your mind understands. There is also a sense of timing that cannot be forced. You may feel as if this person arrives just when you stopped searching so hard, just when you began focusing on your own peace. That is often how God works. When your heart is no longer chasing completion in another person, you become ready to receive partnership instead of dependency. And that is when two paths finally meet, not out of desperation, but out of readiness. For some, this alignment may come as a new meeting. For others, it may be a reconnection with someone who re-enters your life at a different time, both of you changed by experience and growth. Either way, it can feel sudden, almost surprising, as if everything begins moving quickly after a long period of stillness. But what feels sudden on the surface has been unfolding slowly in the spiritual realm. So if you feel a sense that something is drawing closer, trust that feeling. Divine connections often begin with quiet certainty rather than dramatic emotion. God aligns people not only for companionship but for purpose, for mutual growth, and for a love that strengthens faith rather than distracting from it. And as this season unfolds, you may begin to realize that what seemed like separate stories were always meant to meet at the exact moment God decided the timing was right. Chosen one, when the love sent by God finally enters your life, it may not arrive with overwhelming noise or dramatic intensity. Instead, it comes with something many people overlook: calmness. After seasons of emotional highs and lows, you begin to notice a different feeling, one that does not create anxiety or confusion. There is clarity where there used to be overthinking. There is peace where there used to be fear. And in that quiet peace, you begin to understand that this connection is different from anything you have experienced before. You will recognize this person not because everything feels perfect, but because you feel safe being yourself. There is no constant need to question their intentions or to wonder where you stand. The connection feels steady, grounded, and honest. Conversations do not feel forced, and silence does not feel uncomfortable. Instead of losing yourself in the relationship, you feel more aligned with who you truly are. This is one of the ways God confirms that a love is meant for you. It brings you closer to peace, not further away from it. In the past, love may have felt like something you had to fight for or prove yourself worthy of. You may have mistaken intensity for depth, but believing that strong emotions meant strong connection. But divine love often feels gentle at first. It grows slowly and naturally, building trust instead of urgency. It allows both people to breathe, to grow, and to support each other without fear. This is because a God-centered connection is not built on temporary feelings alone, but on shared purpose and faith. As this season unfolds, you may begin to notice small confirmations, a sense of right timing, conversations that feel meaningful without effort, moments where you feel understood without having to explain everything. These are not coincidences. When God joins two paths, He also provides spiritual confirmation, a quiet knowing that settles in your heart. It is not loud or dramatic, but it is steady and reassuring, like peace that remains even when circumstances are uncertain. Valentine's Day, for many, is centered around grand gestures and fleeting expressions of affection. But for the chosen one, this moment becomes something deeper. It marks the beginning of a partnership that goes beyond romance. It becomes the start of a journey where two people walk together with intention, encouraging one another's faith, supporting one another's growth, and building something rooted in trust and purpose. Love, in this form, is not about completing each other, but strengthening each other. This is why patience was necessary. God was not only preparing the other person, He was preparing you to recognize healthy love when it arrived. Without that preparation, you might have overlooked peace because it felt unfamiliar. Now, however, you understand that real love does not demand constant reassurance. It feels secure even in quiet moments. It allows both hearts to rest. You are being reminded to remain open during this time. Do not allow past disappointments to close your heart just as something genuine begins to appear. Stay spiritually aware, because divine love often arrives gently. It does not force its way into your life. It unfolds naturally, step by step. And while it may begin quietly, its impact is powerful. It changes how you see relationships, how you see yourself, and how you understand God's timing. There may still be moments of uncertainty, because every relationship requires growth and understanding. But the difference is that this connection will not pull you away from your peace. Instead, it will encourage honesty, patience, and mutual respect. You will feel supported rather than drained, understood rather than questioned. And through that stability, love becomes a place where both of you can continue becoming who God created you to be. Remember this, chosen one, what God joins is not fragile. It is guided, protected, and sustained through seasons of change. When love is aligned with divine timing, it does not rely on perfection but on commitment, grace, and shared faith. The waiting, the lessons, and even the heartbreaks were leading you here to a moment where love no longer feels uncertain but intentional. So as this chapter begins, allow yourself to receive what God has prepared. Trust the calmness you feel. Trust the clarity that replaces confusion. And know that when God connects two hearts at the right time, it is never accidental. It is purposeful, it is covered by His guidance, and it arrives exactly when both souls are ready. What is meant for you will not pass you by, because what God has written for your life will always find its way to you at the perfect time.